All right, so I'm here on the Art 192 website to introduce the second of the creative projects. This is the book or magazine cover redesign project. And I want to say from the beginning here that this is a redesign project. It's a book or magazine cover redesign. That means there needs to be a physical, actual existing book or magazine cover that you are redesigning. Okay, it just isn't something you're just making up. So I need to see a copy of that original book or that original magazine cover. If you have it in your possession, you can take a picture of it with your cell phone, with a digital camera, and send me a picture copy of it. It has to be included on your work that you're turning in with your redesigned cover, your own creative work. And you need to specify that it's a redesigned, that this is the original and the other one is your redesign. So tell me which is which. It should be obvious, but point it out to me anyway. Now, you don't actually have to own the cover. You don't actually have to own the book. That means that you can go online to a website like Amazon and find book covers out there. And certain classic books like This is Frankenstein might have different covers out there. Now, the point of a redesign project is to showcase your design skills and make it better than the original. So I would not choose something that is particularly, outstanding when it comes to the cover. If you find that there's a cover that really inspires you, that you like a lot, and you think it's really well done, maybe that's not the best cover to pick. Maybe I would choose a cover that is a little bit more plain, a little bit more bland, like this copy of Frankenstein, which often case you'll find with the classic books, they resort to very simple covers because the books kind of sell themselves. They don't really need a fancy cover to sell it, and they don't spend a lot of money on graphic designers to get a new cover. But nonetheless, if it's a magazine cover, I need to see a copy of that too. So you'd need to take a screenshot of this, or find the image through Google or what have you, and give me a copy of that. All right. Now, on the website, you're not going to see the originals. You're just going to see the student work. I didn't post the originals because I don't want people to confuse, the student work with the professional work. But the thing I need to point out to you is all of the information from that original cover needs to be in your cover. That means, for example, this student chose a magazine cover. The magazine cover is called Baja News, the actual magazine. And so what's going on here is that the student is taking all this detailed information from the original cover and redesigning it. So they chose the font. They came up with the photograph. They did all the copying and pasting into this. They did the drop shadow. They did the style of the text. They did the text layout, the color, all of this stuff. None of this existed. So you're not taking anything from the original except the information. All right, so as an example, I just mentioned Frankenstein. Okay, so here's what one version of the cover of Frankenstein looks like. So this is pretty simple. All you would need to do is take the word Frankenstein, then the author's name, Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley, and then the bottom there, which is a little bit difficult to read on this scale, but let's just say Introduction by Wendy Steiner or something. But you get the idea. If it was this cover, it would be a modern library paperback. All this information needs to be included, but in a different style. So you wouldn't use a red rectangle. You wouldn't use the same font for Frankenstein or the same layout. You wouldn't use the same graphic. You wouldn't use the same color scheme. You wouldn't use the same, all that stuff would be original. All that would be your own. Okay. So your student version of that cover may look something like this. All right, here's a student version of it. So again, they've taken all the information from the original, the word second edition, and they totally redesigned it. They came up with the texture, they came up with the shadow, they came up with the idea, they came up with the lighting scheme, the drop shadow, everything, even the little frame was done by the student. It's all original design. The content is what they took. All right, so they did not take the photograph, the shadow, the texture, any of that from an existing book. They got that from other photo sources. They got that from other places. That could be from their still cameras, if they have a still camera. That could be just from doing an internet search and going to Google and getting images that way, which often is done. And that's fair game too. You know, you can use, everything is covered by academic fair use. So even if it's copyrighted, you can use it for this design project. Just realize that, as I said, with the CD cover, that is not okay to use in outside of the class purposes. So that's only for our purpose in class. It's covered by what's called educational fair use because you're a student, because you're enrolled in a class, and because you are practicing to become a designer. You can use and appropriate things you normally couldn't use, copyrighted material you normally couldn't use. That doesn't mean you can copy their design for this project though, and I want to be very clear on that. So again, think back to this. This is the original that he would have submitted. This is the student version of that original. Okay, so it's a complete reinterpretation of the design. The only thing they're taking is the text, the information, and they're redesigning it. Okay, so just wanted to be totally clear on that. I know it may sound real simple for some of you, but I get a lot of mistakes on this. So here's another classic novel, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. Student took his own texture that he created with watercolors here, and particularly, you know, totally redid the font, the blending, the font for the author, everything is completely his own. The only thing taken was the information. Here's a Romeo and Juliet cover, probably a familiar tale from William Shakespeare that you may have known. So again, this student found a lot of information on a cover, and she repeated that, okay, over and over. He repeated that. And they totally redesigned it. So he was able to take this in a completely different direction with the design from the original. Here's a redesigned textbook. Again, information's the same, totally new take on it, different images, different color scheme, different layout, everything. All right. So you get the idea, hopefully by now. If you don't, please email me. But the idea is you're redesigning the information that's there. Now, of course, once again, as I stressed with the CD cover, it's really about you taking the design fundamentals, the design principles that you've been studying and focusing on, and using those to communicate effectively. These projects showcase your ability to communicate visually. It's not just about your Photoshop skills. That is important, but your Photoshop skills should be at the service of the overall design. I'm teaching you these Photoshop skills so that you can become a better visual communicator, either through photographs or in this case through design work. So you're using contrast, you're using value, you're using line, you're using type, you're using balance, you're using all these things that we've been looking at, the design fundamentals from the previous DVD, to create a cover that communicates visually, that grabs people's attention, that has visual interest, but above all, communicates clearly, that communicates a message, that gets a mood or idea across to a viewer. Something that they can interpret, something that gives them a sense of what that book is about, but at the same time communicates that effectively through good design fundamentals. So I'm looking for the way you use Photoshop, yes. I'm looking for the creativity in your ideas, yes. But I'm first and foremost looking for the way you communicate visually. And I will be holding you to those design fundamental standards and hoping that you can then showcase those in a way that really brings forward your style, your artistry, but at the same time communicates on a very real, very clear level. Okay. Well, feel free to visit the website and take a look at some of these, but the detailed information regarding the project will be on a link for the creative projects. So you can click there and read about the specs for it. But the cover in this case does not have a template the way that the CD cover had. So you can use whatever size you need for this book cover, I just ask that it's at least 8 by 10 inches at 240 pixels per inch. Okay. Now, if you want to go bigger or smaller than that, or excuse me, bigger than that, that's fine. Don't go smaller than that, please. Keep it at a good size so that we can, showcase that piece of work, and I can put it on, hopefully, if it's good enough, end up on the student gallery. But let's make sure that we keep it a respectable size. 8 by 10, 240 pixels per inch should do it as a minimum. But you can do a landscape aspect ratio if you want to go horizontal with it, if you want to go more vertical with it. It's that you have flexibility on that. It's totally up to you what format you choose. You can even go with a round format if you choose to do so. But use your creativity, but again, keep those minimum sizes in check. So once again, just to close things up, the things to remember: give me a copy of the original, whether it's a digital copy from online that you found, or if it's the actual physical book that you have, then take a photo of it. Make sure you include all of the information that's on the original cover. So the publisher's name, the author's name. If it's a magazine cover, then all the articles and all the little advertisements they may have on the cover. But you're totally redesigning it. You're not copying and pasting any design elements from that. You're simply taking that information that's there, okay? And you're redoing the font, you're redoing the layout, you're redoing everything else that's related to the design. That's about it. So if you do have questions, of course, you can always email me. But good luck with this project, and we'll see you on the next lesson.